it is so abundant because
Yeah.
it's to say that when we follow regenerative practices, permaculture practices, they're literally, by definition, there is no waste.
Right.
Waste in society is literally just equals laziness because ultimately there is no waste. It's just a matter of, oh, we decided to cut all these corners, and then now we have 450 million metric tons of plastic waste on the planet every year, right? So that is just a massive, lazy, profit centered, we don't give a shit about the downstream effect of anything, when in fact, there's ways to solve these kind of things. And these things are always connected to the destruction of the human, and by their mere creation of them, destructive to the planet. Pollution as within, so without. So like when I was writing this book about everything from PFAS as a organism of a person consuming these things, it's you're seeing this world in which, oh, this is destroying your biology, and in the the ecological system, it's also destroying the ecological system. So, and that's where I don't like where these just to say a little bit about this, when people they want to lump things into, oh yeah, because it's climate change and it's
Right.
all this stuff, and it's like now people who I don't agree with are taking those terms and making it into whatever the hell their agendas they're trying to do. But for me, I go back to my Minnesota roots. I go back to common sense. I go, listen, polluting yourself with consuming water that's chelated petroleum plasticizers and phthalates and PFAS, and consuming that is a really stupid idea. And the mere fact of creating that is toxic to the world. So that's where, uh, and you can say the same argument for regenerative agriculture, right? When people make that step of, oh yeah, because it's drawing down CO2. Well, that's a side effect of a process that follows nature. It's not the it's not the thing to do. It's like if you follow regenerative principles, this is a big topic, but just to summarize, you're building soil, right? You build the nutrients in that soil, you plant a seed. That seed is now able to uptake micronutrients and develop itself. Number one, you draw in more water and water retention. You build a strong plant that has inside of it adaptogenic properties to create the complexity of, call it, antioxidants, micronutrients. And so the plant is stronger itself, which then needs less and less input of
Yes.
some fucking radical thing. And then when you bring in more regenerative permaculture principles, you're using plants to help plants. You're using adaptogenic properties that are followed from nature, and you use less and less, if at all, inputs from outside to control. And by the way, you give sovereignty back to the farmer and let the farmer be the farmer. You have a stronger plant. So when you're a person in the middle of the country who's buying their produce, and the farmer was the farmer because they've been doing it for generations that way, now you have more nutrients and you're not getting blasted with glyphosate and other pesticides, astrazine and other pesticides and herbicides that are neutering our society and creating a whole other side effect. That through following those natural principles, you natural create balance within the ecosystem. So anyway, that's just a quick summary to say that when we divorce ourselves from these things, you have that proverbial laundry list of side effects that show up on the television set of another drug or another way of doing things. And then the lazy version is we have to then deal with the side effects in our society. And again, going back to the idea of a plastic water bottle and shipping water around the planet, it's just a very lazy and insane idea. So that kind of encompasses the book in the sense that speaking of the apathy, we're all born into this, Tina. We're born into this kind of world in which has been the Industrial Revolution has been pushing this GDP idea at the expense of our health and the society. So I wanted to just really take the normal things we're doing every day, like putting on deodorant, putting dental floss, using toothpaste, washing our hair, putting on clothes, using devices that have, electromagnetic radiations, and just going, okay, this is what we're doing. This is society. We need to actually then turn and look at it because a lot of these things have no regulation, or at least they're not being enforced. And it's affecting us, and it's affecting us in a big way. So that was the elephant in the room for me, to just start having this conversation that a normal society can look at, when you can look at, like, maybe don't put aluminum salts under my armpit, you know,
Right.
just
Well,
so that I don't embarrass myself and have sweat under my armpit.
well, I appreciate you writing this because I mean, I've known you a long time and I've been beating this drum for decades earlier than that. And people just, I'm shocked that we're in 2023, almost 2024 now, and people don't know the basic stuff that we know. And, we used to get called hippies for it, but it's like, I remember learning this stuff in the 90s. I know that still was pretty late, like early 90s when I met my mentor. And I just wished I was shocked then. And so I did, made a lot of changes in my life and those became normal things in my household. And it took me a while to convince my family to come around and they're pretty okay. Not my daughter was raised up on it. She should know better. Yet I walk into her apartment and she's still using all this scented, horrible crap. And I'm like, what are you doing? Do you like your ovaries? Do you want to have healthy children someday? Like, what? Like, this isn't negotiable. Like, I'm not trying to be like the hippie crunchy mom here, but come on. But that we're now to see this stuff talked about online, like it's novel for people. It's just these completely novel concepts for people that like the stuff in my skin. And then you see companies that are just, we've heard the term greenwashing. I think it gets overused, but man, it's bad. People don't realize just because it looks like a nice package and the company's touting less toxic versions doesn't mean they're still not toxic, when you go reading the ingredients. So I know this is overwhelming. That's my point to this rant. I know that this is really overwhelming to the average consumer and the average person, but it's baby steps. And the first step is knowledge, just
Yeah.
knowing what you're getting into. I had a class in naturopathic college. It was crazy. It was from 7:30 in the morning till 9:30, one day a week. And it was just one quarter. And the first hour, she would tell you everything that was toxic that you were using, like literally like she just slide after slide of product after product and how bad it was for you, what it was doing to your endocrine system, this is in the early 2000s. And we would leave during the first hour break crying. We'd be outside in the hallway. People would be crying. And like, I've used that my whole life. What have I done to myself? And then the second hour is what you could do about it. And strangely, there isn't a lot of interventions I think that society at large believes that doctors can wield a magic wand and poof, this will come out of your body. But some of these chemicals are really in there and now they're in everybody at decently high levels, right? I mean, glyphosate is in everyone and these PFAS are in everyone and it's in our breast milk and it's coming through and all that. And we're putting, glyphosate laden tampons up our hoo-ha. But guess what works? The same stuff that, I know you're a really healthy guy and you and I have been kind of preaching the same similar stuff for a long time. Like you got to move, you got to sweat, you got to lift weights, you got to get sun, you got to, that's what ultimately is going to move this stuff out of people's bodies as much as we can. It's not magic detox shakes and what I mean, there's helpful interventions, but not hugely if the person's continuing to
Yeah. Well,
have the exposure.
Well, that's the key, right?